Okay. Now of course. So what's the foreword? Yes, Ruben?
Um,
3 words if you want. Depends on
three
the case.
words. Enom Nechal Machmat Milcho, that's 4 words.
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No. You were mumbling. Say it again.
Oh, okay. Enom Nechal Machmat Milcho, except that's 4 words.
That's not a bad one. Okay. Anybody else? I was betting on for Sifhei, Meliach Harehu Karoteach. That says it all. Except what's Meliach, what's Roteach, and what else, and why were we leaving other things off? So in the sense, how is Melicha like Reticha? Yes, I'll ask it as a question. Is actually like Melicha is like Roteach in two senses. First, Plata, right? And then Havla'ah. That just as a Ma'achal Cham, is polite me'atzmo. Ma'achal Cham, it exudes from itself. Umavliya b'ma'achal acher, and it will take that thing that exuded and place it within another food, which it is touching or reacting to, that it reacts to. So too with Meluach. Um, and of course, I'll put it in a phrase here. We're talking about when it's Eino Nechal Machmat Melichato. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I kind of threw it in now. It's Polate Meatzmo, and it's Mavliya into the Ochel after it has no Gayabo, after it has, touched it, whatever Nagia means. No, touch it. Um, Therefore, an Isur Maluach can be Oser a heter that it touches. In the same sense, a Basar Maluach, right, let's try it again. An Isur Maluach can be Oser a heter that it touches. A Basar Maluach that touches Gavina forbids it. A Gavina Maluach that touches Basar Oser Toto, it makes it forbidden. How much meluach do we need? Or that we'll talk about. But although the halacha, I'll just say this kedei klipa becomes very important. Unless and all this is not talking about, if we're talking about that they're relatively dry. If one of them is shamain to the degree it's b'fafeya, then maybe it'll be a larger amount besides kedei klipa. We'll talk more about that. But Malicha works through its charifut, and Bishul Aroteach goes obviously through its chom. And Malicha differs, and this is talking about what we're talking about right now, differs in one really major way from Roteach. Anybody have an idea what that would be? Yes, Max?
It's only Aser Kedei Klipa, not the whole thing.
Okay. I would say that's
From
really important. Maybe it's up number 2, but that's really important. Say one more word about it. I'll come back to that. We'll all come back to that in a moment. Say something else. I interrupted you.
No, just that the Shulchan Aruch paskins um that once you salt something and before it's soaked in water, that it can be oser k'dei klipa, whereas if it was roseach, then if and it touches a piece of cheese, it could usher the whole piece of cheese.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Jack. What do you got? Jacob, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is it that with Roteach, Tata Gavar is relevant, but we don't really have that relevance by Mulicha?
Correct. That's another good thing. Okay, do that. Okay, it's not. But there's one that's kind of above both of those. Anybody else? Well, you know, Reticha can work both ways. It could be a mutual effect upon, there's a mutual effect. They affect each other. But with Malicha, it's Mavliya. It, is Charifut. Just using those terms again, this Charifut works up the thing that is being salted and gives over some of the lachluchit to the victim, but it's not mutual. Nothing comes back. It's a big difference. Well, with reticha, reticha could work both ways, and therefore it's important if one's on top of the other, because what's the major way it works, even though there might be some still side collateral damage to the one that even though we say tata gavra, maybe collateral damage to the Elyon, and that some of it, and that okay, but that I think is a very major thing to keep in mind. So it says the Meliach Harehu Koroteach only in terms of what it's going to accomplish to its. I use the word victim. Yeah, I like that. To its victim. So the other way of saying it, it's my notes here. A machal meluach is mavliya ach eno bolea. It's mavliya eno bolea. Just 3 words now. Mavliya eno bolea. Do you want to add 2 words? Machal meluach mavliya eno bolea. One direction, crucial. Also, the term that we use is moluach, and the other one will say, what's the term for the victim being affected? Tafel. It's actually a good term. I mean, it's tafel. It's a victim. It's a nothing. So therefore, as Jacob pointed out, the really doesn't matter if the moloch is tachton and moloch is elyon. It is the one that has that power, and the other one is, in a certain sense, powerlessness. What else do I want to say here? However, when the shnei machalim are meluchim, both of them are empowered in this new society that we're creating, that both meat and cheese will both be empowered, right? Either both are empowered or both become victims. What does that mean, right? Shnei Melchim, that's each one is Mavliya of the other one. But they're Mavliya, I should add to it. I don't have that in my notes, but of course, it's Mavliya, the other one, but not as a reaction of one upon the other, There is Mavliya, the other one, because both are salted. Both are empowered to do that. Okay, that's the major differences. But there's opinion that kind of rattles around that chom can be motzi ta'am, right? It gives forth tam, but that malicha does not. It doesn't have in its power to give forth the tam. So that we'll probably come to it, if not this time, another time. That's something just to consider. We're going to talk a lot about that that the meluach is like karot. The meluach is like roteach. That's dafka in a situation that the machal hameluach eno nechal machmat melichato. And there are several shitot on this, but you'll see them in different forms. So let me try this way. Classic ones. And you can see that we're not doing the tour, but you just find it very simply in the tour. There's a sheet of Rabbeinu Yaakov Yisrael, Tosfos. And there's some Tosos Kuf Yud Bet, Amid Aleph, Divrei Hamaschil, Hani Mili. What does it mean that it's there is so much melech, such an overwhelming, that's how I think how he says it. There is such an unbelievable amount of melicha. It's that, and what's the use of that? Well, if you're going on a trip for such a long period of time in the desert, or you're going on such a trip that there's no kosher food. Anyway, that's what you use it for. It's so, how salty is it? It's so salty that, if you want to give me the phrase at the end here, or explain, it doesn't have to be a particular phrase, but you just say, it's so salty that, say it again.
Right?
Right, well, we're actually, right. And how salty is that? You have to do what to fix it?
You have to soak it, right?
You got to really soak. You got to work on it. You get it rid. Also, in terms of the opinions, they're going to say is, well, you never really get all the melech out, and I think that might be important for us. So anyway, that's the Tosfos. There's a shita of Rashi, and the shita of Rashi is also in Kuf Yud Bet. Divrei Hamaschil de'eno nechal. That's kind of like their molech, also for a period of time, but that's a zaman mesuyam. So it's it is heavily salted, but not like the first shita. But significantly, so it's a zaman mesuyam, but you still can't eat it unless you put it in water. So they both have the same things, but the intensity is still a difference. And then finally you have the Shitas, Rabbeinu Tam himself, and the Atosot that we mentioned before. In the sense he's machmir. And that is that I say machmir because it's interesting. I say machmir because it expands the definition of malicha, expands it. That even a malicha in which you take out the blood and you make it mutter to be in the pot and to cook it. This is also in this case of of the כדי מליחה, שאינו יכול לאכול כדי מליחה, בגלל מליחתו. So it's kind of like roteach, when the milk is in it, is salt that is, it's like it's koshering. You disperse the salt on the meat. That's all, that's all it is. If you've never seen it, or if you saw it like a little boy, you see it all, you see it all the time. Right. So actually, the halacha, we'll see that the Mechaber in the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rabbeinu Tam, Kedei Kedera. You've seen that, but that's what he's saying. But if it was somehow put in water before, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, I think that's. And the Ramah is machmir lahalacha. In the case where there's no hefsed merubah, things are fine. You don't have to worry about hefsed merubah. Even the small amount of malicha, which is less than malicha l'kadeira, even less than malicha l'kadeira, is considered by the Ramah to be inonecha machmas malicha. So, because you don't eat it until you get it off. There's also another opinion, which is like the same opinion, but expressed well by the Yad Yehuda. It's a sefer published 1900, in which, how does he have it? I have it written down somewhere. I would rather use his words. What's his words? Eino nechal machmas mocho. Eino nechal ratzulomar. Doesn't sheniskalkel. Eino, excuse me. Eino ratzulomar sheniskalkel lagamre. When we say eino nechal bipnei melichaso, we're not saying a complete destruction of the, of the object, of the busser. Ad she'ivshar l'shuma dam lachlo machos mocho. Okay, so eno nechal eno nechal machmas mocho does not mean that it's impossible for someone to eat it, but as long as there's some kilkul of tam. So he says, kilkel tamo al yedei hamelech. This is called Eino Nechal Machmas Mocho. It's based on a Rashi in Pesachim, Ayin Vav. Okay. By the way, he was the Rav in Sedigora. He was he was the Litvish Rav in Sedigora, because the Sedigora Rebbe said we need to have a real Rav, and they sent away for him. And my grandfather and my father's side was a Sedigora Chassid. Nobody in my family told me that until I was 17. It was considered, the Hasidic part was considered a recessive gene, and at war with everything else, but whatever. What else I want to say? So the next big question that we're going to have, which we'll see, which you've seen already, right? When does the Machal Meluach be considered like Roteach, and until what time? So we have 3 time zones, kind of. We have the time zone of before, then we have the time zone we call Shehiyah. And I'll just say right now,
Did we lose Rav Landis there?
I did so on my end, yeah.
I also did. You hear me?
Yes.
Israel's connected still.
Okay. Did I do that? Who did that to me? Okay.
We all lost you for a few minutes there.
Okay, I'm lost.
You were talking about the 3 time periods, Rav Linus.
That's it. Okay, we have to be, that we have to know about. So that becomes a concern. You could really think that maybe it starts as soon as you put the salt on, even though it's before Shahia. You can consider on the post Shahia period that maybe there's some residual plate taking place. And for that matter, there's one sheet we'll see it, was at the sheet of the Ran, who says that actually during the Shahia itself, maybe there are periods within the Shahia that it's not so polite. So we're not going to really see it, but that as far as the sense has been put away. So now let's go to hay. Okay, let's go to hay. And the first thing I wanted to say is if we just look at the Shulchan Aruch itself, Melech shenu yachol le'achel machmas mocho, v'hainu ke'ein melech shemochim l'kedera. Whose shita was that? We had 3 shitas before. Whose shita was that?
Iran's.
No,
Rabbeinu Tam.
Rabbeinu Tam. V'shah kedei melicha kedera kol zeman shelo hidichu mikrei eno nechel machmas mocho. And then the Shachar continues. Umoliach ke'ein melech deboy lala orcha afil achar shidichu harei eno nechal machmas mocho. I'm getting confused here. Which one is the real melicha she'eno nechal machmas mocho? Am I reading right? Are there 2 definitions presented here? First one is the salt on the meat for the kedera, and the second one is that incredible salting for the beef jerky that you take on your way, on your teal. And so, Joel, what do you answer?
I think it's really here the question is what it needs to get it out of the saltiness, right? It is for the kedera, you just need to rinse it. You just need hadacha. But according to the Mechaber, but for the road, the beef jerky, there you need shriya, right? It needs to actually like sit in water.
But in terms of the definition of enol nechal,
they both seem to work according to the Mechaber. He holds
they both work. But
Yeah.
no, it becomes an expanded definition.
Mhm.
And so what you're saying is the tikkun, the difference is the intensity, and then what the tikkun has to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So the first one is what, running the tap?
It sounds like it. Yeah. Just you rinse it.
And the second one
is
the jerky?
soaking. Is Jody that what you call it before?
Soaking.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, fine. Okay, so that gives us the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. And Josie, we want to start off and just say Cohen, Shach, hey.
Okay. The Dehainu v'chulei.
Wait, did I have the right place? Dahainu, you're right. I'm sorry. You got it. Okay. Mechaber. Yeah, go on.
Hamachaber sover Karan. Shehevi bebeit Yosef psak halacha. Dehainu k'sheshaha shior melicha likdera have roteach umikre hachila umikre hachi lo. So this is confusing because it looks like he says in one place the Beit Yosef quotes this as halacha that if you just leave it in just long enough in the pot, it's like it's like roteach, like boiling or rapid cooking. But here it's not called that.
Yeah.
V'had b'voar b'dvarav Siman samachtet sif kaf. De'afilu mikri hachi have roteach uktzat mashma sham dela'achar shehashior melicha lo have roteach. Tzarich lomar de'shani hatam de'ayri be'isur dam de'hilchach hadam de'hamelach rotachin heim b'shad melicha.
And when he says shatam licha, what does he mean by shatam licha?
As soon as you're putting it, and as soon as
Right, as soon as you put it on, there is some
right.
that reaction begins. He's forming and defending his views. Avalo, skip the
and quotes these places. Avalo k'sheshashir melicha she'az psak koach hamelach machmat palet kol adam. Aval hacha mayri be'isor basar gvina dechol kama delo nimlach gehogen en abasar roteach aval k'sheshashir melicha nechshav roteach shehaylo psak koach hamelach shelo palat klum. Devadai ayri k'shavar nimlach abasar behudach kanu ata nimlach shenit. Im lav kain hayagivina nesar mishum dam. So
okay, but that's just that's important for us to know that kashering.
It's the difference between koshering to get. Is the difference in one case he's talking about koshering to remove the blood from the meat. In this case, he's talking about you have meat that you're preserving for whatever reason, or just salting it. And here it's a milk and meat question. And at what point does the salting sort of stop drawing out something that it can then re-exude?
And with dam,
with dam, it seems to end sooner than with the milk and meat case, because after a while it stops pulling out the dam.
So the dam is posek, right? Finishes at a certain time. Not the dam, excuse me. The melicha for dam is posek at a certain point, or the melch is posek.
Right.
It's posek at the end of shehiyah.
Whereas the whole time it's got the salt on it, it can exude meatiness. As opposed to blood, it's now exuding meatiness.
Well, okay, so now you just gave the punchline.
Oh, sorry.
So, I'm grew up in Hollywood. You can you can get killed for that. That's good. The harav, okay, talking about the Ramah now. Yeah.
V'hinei lavor asher harav nimshach achar Torah habayit Siman Kufnun Tet.
Wait. Did you?
Achar, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think you skipped. No, you skipped a line.
Did I skip a line or you skip a line?
Dim leim kav haya gvina nasar mishum dam. I'm sorry. Vera v'haga mashve din basar gvina li'isor dam. So the Rav here is the Ramah, right?
Right.
So the Rav is saying, in this case, the two are equivalent in terms of this sort of strength of being able to exude again.
That's a very big difference, right? So time-wise, I mean, I'm just being pedantic. In the time frame, what are we saying between the Mechaber and in terms, or are we thinking the Mechaber is going to be, and what we think about the Ramah?
It sounds like the Mechaber is going to say after a while the salting to get rid of blood ends, but the Ramah is going to say no, it stays. It's the time frames are equivalent. As long as it's exuding meatiness as exuding blood, it has the same force of exuding blood.
Yeah, I think
Is that correct?
the other direction, right? The Ramah
The
thinks
other direction.
that it ends, the ability to exude any flavor ends after the time of that it would have drawn out of the blood. Right? This is it's like
Can,
Sif Kaf, right? Is where he gets it from.
can
What
I
he
say?
really
Can I
wants
also?
to get here is the difference between Dam and the Basar Gavina situation. And the Rav compares the two.
Hello?
V'hinei,
Can I just have a question? Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe I'm understanding something correctly. Maybe I can just say it, and you'll tell me. You'll all tell me
say
if
it.
I'm right or you'll tell me if I'm right or wrong. I thought that what Shach is saying is that the Mechaber is talking about a whole separate malicha after you've finished doing malicha for the purpose of getting blood out. And because obviously during the time of malicha for the blood out, the dam is like the salt has lost all its power by the end of that time, and it doesn't do anything. So it's supposed to be that you rinsed it and then you salted it again for some other purpose, and that is what the problem is. And the Ramah, the Rav, is talking. No, he's talking about the actual blood, the actual salt that the kula is that the actual salt that you're using to take out the blood itself. In that case, he said about that case where the original salting, he says Yesho. In other words, he's talking about a different case, saying in the first salting, then after it waited a certain amount of time, it's dead, and therefore you can be lenient. But really, but really he holds that's only if in Aruba. In a regular case, even if he was sitting in salt for a day, but that was the salt of the original salting, the first salting, it would be molech, it would be hot. Only it's Aruba is legal.
Therefore, when we say that the Rav, when the Ramah is mashve din basar gvina leisur dam.
Exactly, because he's saying that there could be a problem of basar b'chalav even with that first salt, even after the time, even if it's been sitting in salt the full measure of time. That's the way I understand it. Is that the way you got it, Joel, and everybody else? No, maybe I'm wrong.
I think that the Machaber is saying that even though we say that once the dam has pulled out all the blood, it no longer has the power to infect anything or to pull anything out, right? The dam loses its koach.
Right.
That if you salt it again, though, right? Because clearly we're not talking about that. Then,
when you salt it again, then you have problems.
Yeah, then you have problems. You don't lose that power. And the Ramah says, no, I don't know if the Ramah is talking about the original salting, but he says if you salt it that much, once it's gone the amount of time it would have taken to draw out the blood, it loses its power just like it did with the blood.
Who are you quoting now, Joel?
Yeah, I got that from the Ramah himself, but he says, right, he says, Aval loksha shir milicha, she'az pasak koach hamelach, machmat shepalat kol adam, aval hacha mare be'isur basar gvina, dechol כמה דלא נמלח כהוגן, אינה בשר רותח, אבל כשהשיר מליחה נחשב רותח, שהרי לא פסק כוח המלח, שלא פלט כלום. No, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. Does he actually say it?
The kavar nimlach habasar v'hudach is past history.
Yes.
It's past history.
Well, I was basing what I was saying on the shot.
Let me just try for a second. It's past history. Therefore, the basar that's coming into the story in which we have basar and kavina, and we don't know which one is the one that is maluach. When it comes into that, the basar is coming, we would say, without dam. We don't care about dam. We took care of the dam already at an earlier point in which you got rid of the dam. The question is, a melicha of basar, in which we don't have to talk about dam, but we want to talk about meatiness, the term that somebody used. We want to talk about meatiness, and we want to talk about cheesiness. What does it do? And the Ramah says, there's a connection about these mashva, basar gavina to isur dam, that after shehiyah, it stops. After shehiyah, there is no more, let's say in terms of the meat, no more meatiness is being exuded, or if it's the gavina that is maluach, there's no more cheesiness excluded. And what we know, this is why it's in a different, this way it's in a different seif. What we know about meat becomes very important to us because we learn, dam, in other words, dam and meat. It becomes important to us to measure something else. That's how I see it. And Joel, what do you say?
I think that he's saying that the Mechaber is saying that, right, when it's with the blood case, because it's drawn out the blood kind of stops the power of the salt, right? And here he says, I gotta find it again, that if you salt it again, though, right, shari lo pasak koach hamelach shelo palat klum, because it didn't draw anything out.
Oh, because we're talking about the koach hamelach.
Yeah,
We're not talking about dam in the next situation. The question is, basar gavina is my topic today. Okay. Oh, technically, of course, the meat had to be salted at an earlier point. That's in a footnote or in an ellipse. Its place, because you get a problem of Easter. You get the problem of dam. Dam Easter. But once you take care of this, how do we measure? So I'm repeating myself. How do we measure the extent of the plata and the mavliya of the section that's maluach? Oh, how do we know what to do? Let us use the paradigm of dam. Dam here is just to get us out of a problem. He's done in two ways. Dam here has two things. It gets us out of the problem of, we're not talking about blood anymore. That's the first thing that it does. So as earlier, and second of all, it's providing us with a paradigm of time. Use the same paradigm of time. What's the paradigm of time? When the shehiyah is done for dam, parallel, then we can learn that shehiyah is the time that we're talking about. That 1 kilometer of a Persian mile, which takes 18 to 22 minutes, or something like that, to go, we'll use it right here. And then that should be the way that's the way you should be using. What do you got?
I think if I'm understanding the Mechaber right, and also the way the Shach is explaining him, he and the Rama have potentially opposite timelines here. Although I know the Rama is like Machmir if there's no Sorach, but right, where the Mechaber doesn't think the Reticha starts in this case until after the amount of time it takes to do the salting of
Exactly.
Yeah, and
exactly. That's why it doesn't make sense. That's the problem, because how could it seems like the Rama is agreeing with the Mechaber, and saying Akula that no, after that time it's okay. So that means it implies that
maybe you can see it there. I don't see it there. I don't see it. What is it? How does he say it there? Yesh something or other. What? What's the line he uses?
The Mechaber or the Rama?
About the Mechaber.
Because he says, right, Dehainu ke'ein maliach shemolchim l'kedera v'shaha kedei malichak l'ktera, right? It has to have spent let's say 18 minutes is the amount of time it takes to walk a Roman mile, 22 minutes, whatever it is. Until it gets to that point, it sounds like it's not roteach yet in this case, even though for dam, it's the opposite, right? For dam, that whole time it is being roteach and pulling out the dam, and not afterwards. Here, the timeline doesn't start for him until the amount of time it would take to.
That's why I said that the Rama is talking about a case of the first salting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Where there in the early part is where it's a problem, And the Mechaber is talking about after the salting because he's talking about the secondary salting. That's what I was saying before. That's what I was trying to explain. I think that the Shach is bothered by how could the Ramah be saying that he's giving you a kula over and above the Ramah, over and above the Mechaber when it doesn't seem like he's because he's agreeing with that and then he's talking about a different case. We lost Rabbi Landis again.
We
Oh.
lost him entirely.
Yeah.
He'll come back. Anyway, that's the way I saw it. I saw that the Ramah that's his point, is that you thought that the Mechaber is talking also about the first salting. And you say, no,
Okay, this is my fault. I think, or I mean, it's my building's fault. I'm sorry. Okay.
You see,
I think it happened again.
It's all those jet planes that are flying over. It's really true, actually. The internet goes down sometimes because they're jamming radio signals or something. And when there's an attack flying overhead to Lebanon, then there's no internet. Happens to I have a friend who lives in the north. He says it happens a lot. And Rabbi Landis is over on the east side of town, near the desert where the planes fly. You're back. We see you.
I'm going to no, I'm using the iPad. I think this. Great apologies. Great apologies. All right, so I got Joel and Nachum on one side, I'm on the other side, but I'm not really on the other side. I want to say to take this as an opportunity that, well, how can this be? And if we continue now and not get bogged down, we're going to see how this can be. That's what they're going to be dealing with. Okay, Josie, you've been reading. Where are you now?
V'hinei la'avor asher harav.
Okay, read that.
V'hinei la'avor asher harav nimshach achar Torah dabai Siman kufnutet. V'yesh li lahashiv al divarav ka'asher avarer b'siyata dishmaya. Al korchacha ha'achreach noten lahavi divrei Torah dabai b'kitzur. V'lahashiv alehem.
Divrei.
I'm sorry, b'kitzur. Lahavi divrei Torah dabai b'kitzur. V'lahashiv alehem ma shnira li lefi
Unbelievable.
aniyatiyati.
Trumas Adeshin, not Torah Sabayis. Trumas Adeshin.
I'm sorry, Trumat Adeshin. Hine betrumat Adeshin some she Eliyahu. Sorry, my
Shalu, they asked him.
I'm sorry, Shalu. There's a huge smudge on my page here. שבסעודת ברית מילה מלכו בשר הרבה בכלי אחד, מלכו גם כן בכלי אחד אבזות, ואחר ששהו הכל שיעור מליחה, ויותר לכו וערבו
Shiur v'yoter. Now there's more than the necessary time.
לכו וערבו כל הבשר עם האבזות, והפכו הכל מלמעלה למטה ומטה למעלה עד שנגע כל זה בזה, ונמצא אחר כך שאווזה אחת הייתה טרפה, ואין שישים אפילו נגד האווזה אחת, והשיב דייש להתירו בכי הגבנה בהפסד מרובה בסעודת מצווה. כי התוספות והראש כתבו בפרק כל בשר לך שינוע לאחר שיעור מליחה כבר פסק כוח המלך כיוון שהפליט כל אדם. וכן כתב בספרד.
So what's happening right now before I disappear again? So Josie, what's happening? They're giving us a key that we didn't have before.
So that there's in addition to everything else, there's a sort of a mixing going on. And at what point, actually, I kind of got lost in all of the ducks and meat here.
No, it explains what Shahia is, right? What Shahia does. Shahia takes away blood. Earlier on, blood also could be taken away, right? Earlier on, but Shahia seems to be that period, the how can I say, the peak part of the period. And Hiflit Kol Adam. It's the mission accomplished. The blood has emerged and it's not there anymore, and you can go on and cook dinner with a piece of meat. And now we still have the question: what does it tell us about Busser? About Busser and Kavina. So it's like by setting up the difficulty, we're now coming to the answer. Now we have half of the answer. The half of the answer is, what does this play to mean? The kachas abismag the tam hogunu aval the sefer truma. Go on.
The sefer truma v'sha'ardura v'or zarua katvu the basar gvina meluchim shenahu zebazeh afilu lachar shior melichai asurim.
And that's like a big problem for us, right? I mean, this is after Shir Belicha, after that Shehiyah period. It's still, right? Asurim, after Shir Belicha, Asurim, they still have a problem with each other. So now he tries to find an answer, but the answer is going to be a setup until he gets to the real answer. The Dochak.
ודוחק דווקא המלך עצמו חשש
Tashash. It's a tough, no, Tashash.
Tashash. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tashash כוחו, אבל גוף העתיכה עצמה היא רותחת לעולם.
So it's so what's the answer? That they're proposing now they're going to get rid of it. But what are they proposing?
That it's not the salt that's sort of the cooking and hot thing. It's actually this meat that is it's always going to be considered in this.
It's burning forever, broiling forever. I shouldn't say burning, but broiling forever.
Right.
But they said Zim Cain.
In Cain, my makshim harosh the hasmag yunash and afla lechutach. So in that case, how do the rosh and the smag deal with this very gentle pigeon that falls into kutach? De'ita b'shas back in our Hulin page. De'im hakutach nimlach hogen v'hena asura af algav de hakutach nimlach miyamim rabim.
Yeah.
So the bird falls into this very, very salted milk curd. And it's been salty for a while, right? And it remains that way.
Well, right. This has nothing to do. Well, the term will be used again soon, but the dip, the kotach, is the gufa isur, and here, so they're saying it continues. Matazin Shani Hasan da Melch Lo Pasak Kocho Shalo Plat Klum. So I'm sorry, that was the line I wanted you to read. Say it again. Batarzim.
Batarzim the Shani Hatam Deha melech lo psak kocho shelo plat klum. That there the salt doesn't sort of lose its potency because it's not exuding anything.
So we go to the end of that line, to the period. Abalav
Uh,
hachi.
The lav hachi lo kashamidi. The haria kutach hu gufa isor atzma. So the kutach is the actual problem that we have.
But
And
we've learned something important, right? Is that what stops the process of malicha? What's the terminus of malicha?
it seems like it has to be the removal of the salt, right? Because
No,
if the salt remains in the
no, removal of the dam. The removal of making sure that it exudes from the, excuse from the, sorry, we get it out from the busser. That's the end. Then there is no more malicha because it's fulfilled its function. But it exhausts itself. I think that's probably the way I would say it. It exhausts itself. But in the case of Gavina and Busser, a Busser that has no dam, right? We took care of that earlier. What's the end point? What's the terminus?
doesn't seem to be one. It seems
There's
to be
no
that,
terminus
which
because
was where we started.
there's nothing to exhaust it. I think that's use that Victorian term. There's nothing that's going to be exhausted. That's going to be taken out. So that's kind of an answer, but he says, and he's going to come back to that. We'll see it again.
But it's obvious that we have a bunch of Geonim who are arguing with one another about this.
Ela shekosha.
Ela shekasha desmag gufi katav kesefer hatruma visiato ha kaman desmag gufi lasfira ledatam hagunho. So it's it's hard because the smog is coming up against the Sefer Truma here.
Because what are they saying?
They're saying it's all that it's sort of, and once the salt exhausts itself, and the smog is taking the other side of this and saying no, the salt continues on.
And if the salt continues on, in which case you're talking about the salt continues on. What are the carriers? What are the salt continues on?
In the case of, in the case you're post the salting the meat, now you're in the Basar Gavina case.
Basar and Gavina case. The salt continues on. As the salt continues on, what's happening to, let's say it's salted Gavina, what's happening to the Basar?
It continues to be roteach, and it continues to exude. It continues to,
the Basar has got this influx of cheesiness. And if it's the Basar that's salted, what happens to the Gavina?
It absorbs the meatiness from the Basar.
Either way, someone's smorgasbord is going to be in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Near the Engel Hakel Ella Besudat Mitzvah the Hefsed Meruba. How you're makil, why makil? How are you makil in those cases? You take the other svora. You take the svora
that the salt exhausts and it ends its power.
Yeah, so you have to take a svora that after shehiyah it exhausts itself. Why do you take that svora? Because it's a sudas mitzvah, and it's great hefsed. I didn't write this. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I never would have written this. That's not a reason, but evidently. Takasha Gamkain. He says something else which is important. Yeah.
I'm sorry. The kasha gamkein לשבור דברי ספר
Atruma.
התרומה בסיעתו, עד כאן דעתו וקצר.
And also, these are big guys. How do you get rid? So therefore, it's the big thing is not to have Sid Maruba. Of course, it will take other shita, but you got to go on their shita that it's continuous. Marshal.
והמרשל, פרק כל הבשר, סימן ס"ח, השיג עליו, יש לחלק בין גוף התיכה להמלח.
I don't see how that's different from before, but okay.
וישב
קושייתו.
ויצא בעקבותו אחר הבח בסימן ס"ט, ודבריהם דחוקים כאשר יראה במעיין.
In other words, we're not talking about them. Okay. You go look it up and enjoy it, he says. Okay, so that,
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Can I ask quickly about it seems like every time we say Hefsed Merubah ve Sudas Mitzvah, whereas I think there are other places where we just like the Ramah will just say Hefsed Merubah. I imagine it's coming because that's the Trumas Adeshan's question. But it seems like we are Davka saying you need both.
I think what he's
I don't know.
I'm not sure if I'm answering you. I think what they're teaching us here, as students of this, is there's a notion of hachra, even though logic may take you in one full direction, and that may become the majority, or if it's not just logic, it may be just because you're following the greats and will take you in one direction. There are situations that are different. In situations you take the view that you wouldn't take normally. Those piskei halacha are out there, and I guess part of this notion of hachra is a notion of that both are valid. One's to be enacted all the time, except when it's not going to be enacted. I don't know if that responds at all to what you're saying. Joel?
Yeah, I think I just want to.
You respond to Max. Evidently,
No, I wanted to actually ask you the question a little bit. Maybe I'll say it more tightly, and Max, you can tell me if this is right. I think, right, the Ramah in particular, but we see it in others, throws around different times to be makil, like Hefsed Merubah, Hefsed Merubah Usudat Mitzvah, Erev Shabbos, right? All this stuff. And it's like, should we read him like Davka, or like each of these cases needs this case needs both? This case only needs Hefsed Merubah, this case only needs Hefsed, or should we say that they're all essentially the same term and it's just like a hachra that you talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about and they determine, is this a serious enough case?
I think whatever you find, for me, because I'm always curious about that question. I don't think it's just I don't think it's just stuff in the air. I think it's not Hefsed, it's Hefsed Merubah. And in terms of that being a gorem, I go back to what I was trying to say before. It's a gorem when you actually have a valid argument. You've decided on when he says here, Eino Yachol L'Shaber, we can't break through these Gedolim. What's he saying? That's an argument for continuation, traditionalism, whatever the term would be, or established precedent and all that. Okay, but it still can be overturned. And I think it makes a difference what type of Hefsed they're talking about. There's Hefsed Merubah, and you're right, it's two things. Hefsed Merubah is they don't like in the Yiddish we say Verstera Simcha. They don't want to ruin a Simcha. It's a very big no-no in religious practice. Okay, continue. Gam, look what I'm doing to you, Josie. You continue.
Gam b'lav hachi ein svar klal lachleg, she'im hamelech eino korotech, lama yeh guf haticha korotech.
Yeah, it was he gets rid of that. Aval. Okay, now he's going to get to what he wants to say, and he's going to take parts of what he said earlier.
ממשמעות הפוסקים דלא אברינן שפסק כוח המלך, אלא היכא דהפליט דם. כי דרך המלך להפליט דם ולא שאר דברים.
That's all it does in terms of being mafli.
It just pulls out the blood. וכמו שכתב הראש והתור בסוף סימן צדי, אם כן דווקא בכי הגבנה, אמרינן דלאחר ששהה שיעור מליכה פסק כוח המלך, הואיל והפליט דם, מה שאם כן בשאר דברים. So basically he's saying the salt sort of really is only good at pulling out blood and not meatiness.
So I don't understand something. So what's going on with cheese and meat? Aren't we talking about being maflit? He's saying it's only by dam. But it's not, and with dam, and the salt is only meant for the dam to get rid of dam. So what does it mean for Basra
doesn't
Gavina in our
mafli-
case?
It doesn't pull out anything, but it does make it hot.
And therefore,
It's like a piece of hot meat touching a piece of hot cheese. So that's a problem.
A piece of hot meat touching a piece of cheese, is the cheese also hot necessarily?
Not necessarily. It depends on, right. Not necessarily. If it's salted, maybe it is. But if it's not salted, but it doesn't matter because one of them is hot.
no, I'll say, right. Well, okay, one's hot. And just help me through the process. So the meat is hot. And what is
If the meat is hot, well, let's say if the meat is hot and the cheese is salted, so then they're both hot and they're mixing together. So it's like you're cooking them.
And that's
so
an easy case. I don't want to.
And if one of them is hot, so at least
one of them, are you talking about hot now? Or are you talking about maluach?
Maluach is hot. I'm saying it becomes hot.
Yeah. So okay, fine. Just want to make sure. So one is maluach. What does it do to the other?
Well, we did say, didn't we say that it heats it up?
In what?
Kedei klipa, I think.
Kedei klipa.
Yeah, I understand.
Why
don't we use the term plata regarding this interaction of gavina and meat? Why don't we use the term? He says here that he fleet only refers to dam, doesn't refer to anything else. You get my question?
Yeah, because it doesn't lose its power, right? In the sense that if it pulls out the dam, right, then it like neutralizes the salt, so to speak.
Exactly. The salt gets worn out.
Yeah.
The salt gets worn out, and therefore it's no longer salt.
But with cheese and meat,
nothing wears it out, so it now can be mavlia into the next thing.
Yeah, but it's
meat that's already been salted.
I think I learned this over a couple of times. I think that part of something we learned elsewhere, I didn't see it here, is that dam shriki. Dam slithers out. Dam falls out. So there's actually a real plata by dam. But the gavina and the meat are there, they still remain in their status. Nothing gets lost. So therefore, when he says maflit, he means exuded and gone. It just slips out to the ground with dam and it's gone. But we're talking about kavina and meat. We're not. We're talking about they remaining in their way, except what? Except that this melicha is like roteach, is that it affects the other. That's right. It affects the other. It affects its victim. But nothing got lost. Nothing there. Nothing is exhausted.
So going back to your question about why we don't use the plata as the language here, because the salt is no longer affecting exuent. It's affecting just making the meat hot. Now I've got a hot piece of meat that was heated by something other than heat. It's heated by salt. And
Right.
the salt is like having if you had like a portable fire around constantly warming the meat. Now I've got hot meat on something.
Right. Good. The Hilkach. Let's go on.
Okay. Sefer Truma Siato de Mairi de Basar Gvina me Isor Basar V'chalav Lo mi Isor Dam V'lo mi Isor Dam V'lo Pasak Koach HaMelech Shelo Hiflit Klum Pshita de Achar Shior Melicha Hashu Korteach
Shita the Achar Shir Melicha Hashu Korteach because just say it in English. Say it in English. Because
so basically the meat's no longer, like we said before,
there's low heat fleet klum.
It's not exuding anything anymore.
It's not exuding everything. It's not exuding anything. The kachos of
Isur v'heter klal such and such the basar kasher shemalchuha v'hamelech leolam v'tokfo dehalo hiflit davar ayin sham.
Which means, of course, meat had already been captured, which is all our cases here. The hainu
rosh v'hasmag devekutach lo pasak koach hamelech shelo plat klum.
All right, so everyone's agreeing, right?
Right. The salt serves to heat, but not to
agreeing.
Yeah.
Right. So the salt is in its full force because nothing got lost. Zen Yoreh
be'ainai barur asher lefizeh lo pligi hagaonim ahadadei. So in my eyes, they're not actually arguing with the other. Gam divrei smag miyoshvim she'enam sotrim ze al zeh v'chein divrei hator. V'itati davar zeh lifnei hagon avi mori.
Yeah.
Avi Morizal, Shar Gdolei Hamorim, V'nasu v'natnu b'davar, v'yiskimu l'dvarai. And everybody agrees with me. Fantastic.
The world's beautiful. The world's beautiful. So he's done two things. He has brought everyone into alignment, but in bringing them all into alignment, we have clear Klolim. We know when Dam begins and ends. We know now, I think, although there'll be some more conversation about it, but for temporary, we know now when the Gevina and Basar begin, which sounds like the Shahiyah, and we know when it ends. It never ends. A never-ending story. Starring cheese and meat, salted. Never-ending story. But we have some more to do. Lefiza
haya nireh lehatir afilu shelo b'makom hefsed me'ureh b'seudat mitzvah.
Yeah. We don't need any of these, excuse the term, cheesy ways of deciding halacha because you have a heart. No. Ain't no problem.
But that, Rav Lenis, that's only in the case of dam, of like when you're salting the meat together, and one of them turns out to be a treifa, right? Not in the case of meat and cheese touching. Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Ach midivrei she'ar poskim gabe maaseh derashi mashma lehedja afilu gabe dam.
What's the masa of Rashi?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's so this happens like this. There's water boiled. Someone in the pot of water boiled throws in a kara shel isur. They then fish it out. But meanwhile, the water in the pot is asur. And then someone is doing dough, and they take little drops from the from the water into the dough. And what do you do? Now, actually here, they're not so much interested in the dough. They're interested in what we do with the pot. So he says, Master of Rashi, says Rashi Paskin.
משמע להדיא אפילו גבי דם לא אמרינן דפסק כוח המלך לאחר ששהר שיעור מליחה. So in that case, we're not concerned about dam because the salt has already done its work. ולכך כתב
No, I
הרב
think Josie the other way, right? It's the gabi
Yeah.
dam. You don't say that it loses its power because it drew out the blood, right?
אפילו גבי דם לא אמרינן, I'm sorry, you're right, לא אמרינן פסק כוח המלך לאחר ששהר שיעור מליחה. ולכך כתב הרב רבינו פרץ בהגהת סמך.
By the way, Joe, how does Rashi Paskin?
I think he paskins that way, right? That the in Chulin, does he not? That even though it's still drying, done drying the blood, it's still roteach. No,
What,
I might be wrong.
I believe
I got a problem with your pronoun. What's the it? Say it again.
That the salt still has the ability to make the meat roteach, right? Is that right, Rav Nahu?
Yeah, but wait. What about that case? How's he Paskin in the case?
Oh, in the case of the dough, I don't remember.
Yeah. With the dough, we're not so interested in it. With the dough, it's a question of whether or not each drop is mevutal, within shishim. Or the other possibility is once one drop hits there, another drop hits there. There's some sort of adhesion, and they're rare.
Choser kind of
term
case,
you guys know. That's in terms of the dough. But what does he say about the pot?
The tray is kosher, isn't it?
Kosher through the water because it boiled the water. I have to remember. I'll remember. It'll take me a moment. Okay, let's go. Okay, fine. So the kachkas of Rabbeinu Peretz, Josie, continue.
Hagat smak deriva omer detzir hayotze min avasar laachar shur melicha ein alav din dam roteach aval yesh alav din basar roteach le'asur hagvinot be'asher nafal hitzir sham.
Wow.
So they're saying it's what after salting we're not talking about blood coming out. We're actually talking about sear, some sort of meaty juice.
Right.
And that's hot meaty juice that's coming out. That's going to be Ratzolavar de'af la'achar shir melicha nechshav roteach ela de'ein alav din dam kevan de'sheshash shir melicha v'yatzeh kavar alav kol damo. So it's no longer blood coming out. We've already extracted all the blood. It's past its time, but now we're in the realm of sear.
So what does that tell us about? What it tells us about melicha?
It seems to keep going and being.
It also keeps going, right?
Yeah.
Right. It keeps, but it doesn't keep going regarding dam. When they said, we learned before that when the dam is polate and the whole melicha is finished, according to this, the melicha is not finished. It just could operate within the basar, as you said, for the juice, not for the dam.
Is it good for the juice? It's always a question.
V'chein hu
sof siman yud daled. V'hilka hevola delo lohosif Allah v'ein lahakel ela b'makom hefse merubah v'su'adat mitzvah. So here they're restricting this. I don't understand why they're saying here we have to be machmir and restrict it to the case of hefse merubah and a sudat mitzvah. It's not clear. It says it just says because we still have tzir.
Okay, anybody have an idea?
I think it's because we were, the Shach established he talked to like his father and other people, and they agreed with his reasoning. about how the salt gets exhausted, and then we're bringing these other opinions. So there's still what to stand on to be lenient in
Very
this
good.
particular case of Hefsed Meruba,
In
but
other
we
words,
should be
you're
strict with
you're
these.
translating it. Don't pile on those other poskim. Don't pile it on. Lolo sifalav, right? And ein lahakel, but if there's Hefsed Meruba, we have what to stand on. Umihu. Okay, so that takes care. What are we taking care of? We've talked about before, and before is really an issue of dam. We talked about shehiyah. We talked about afterwards that the koach of the melech can continue. By the way, if you really hold that way, except it affects something else, the notion that melech continuing, it gives you a kind of a unified system because the melech continues even for meat. That's what it would say. That's what it says. Except that it doesn't continue anymore for dam. And then every time they're saying that the melech is finished, is because we were living in the world of the halacha question of dam. But so anyway, melech is still melech. So this kind of works pretty well. Umihu.
Have roteach. The Haran Yachid hu legabaihu. Gam kvar de harashba b'mishmeret habayit svarzo b'shtei yadayim ayin sham. So it seems like during the Shir Milicho, it's always forbidden, even in the case of Hefsed Merubeh or Sudat Mitzvah, because everybody agrees that during this period of time, the salt acts to be heating the meat, and the Ran is a Da'at Yachid here, and also that the Gam Kavod Dacha Rashba and the Rashba it sort of pushes this away with both hands.
No, he's not going there. There's a complete agreement that the shehiyah complete Isur, and there's no wiggle room. You can't say, it's Hefsed Meruba. You have to take the loss as grievous as it is. Did we finish? Because I was off for a moment.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Josie, Yashkayach, thank you very much. Let me just ask the question. So what has the Shach accomplished? I kind of said whatever I said earlier, but what has the Shach accomplished in this whole thing? He's differentiated between dam, the whole notion of plates of dam with other FX. He's made a unified dam. It's his own world, but malicha. But in this last section here, he says the effect of malicha and basar and gavina, which goes on forever, is also an effect on basar itself. So it makes a basar itself after the dam has taken out. Except the impact is different. The impact is on getting the tzir out. So it's actually kind of elegant. He has told us that the principle of Hefsed Meruba and the simcha of a chatuna are extraordinarily important, that we even go to directions that we normally go, even though it goes against, we can't break those great men who told us not to do that, but that gives us an opportunity to do so. And he's also quite from during Shehiyah, nothing during Shahia, there's no wiggle room there at all, and even the Hefzer Beruba, etc. So, and by doing so, he gets to the core of the whole process taking place. Some things may happen before, some things may happen after, and therefore you can maneuver around somewhat. But during Shahia itself, and therefore it raises the principle to its inviolability, because the Shahia, what do you, of course. So I think that's what he accomplishes. So take a 5-minute break, and then we have our last 20 minutes or half hour, and I'll find the rest. Okay, thank you.
Rav Landis,
Yes.
I was at Hebrew College yesterday for the ordination, and Nehemiah Poland told me he's very impressed with the work that we're doing at Yeshrut.
He's a sweet guy.
He really is. Yeah,
Next time you see him, give regards, please.
of course.
Okay, I got the masa of Rashi. Didn't say it right. I was right about the dough part, which was not our concern. But the masa of Rashi, masa de Rashi, is the first part. I was correct. So the salt is anyway. The meat with the salt is the blood comes out. Then they take this meat because all the meat, all the blood is out, and they put it in a pot. And there's some water in the pot. But they never took off the salt. By the way, that's the important part. You get rid of the salt. And it turns out that it keeps on going, the salt. We said salt might keep on going for, but just in terms of Master Rashi, how they say it. We went a little bit further. But it's important for the concept. If it's karoteach, malicha karoteach, then you get a whole bunch of problems, because if it keeps on exuding, then maybe it's in the water and it goes back into the meat. And Rashi is matir. He's matir because he says it's not it's not blood. It's mahul. Mahul is juice. Don't be a sap. It's a sap. It's considered a sap. But that's an early, so that's early Rishon, going back to what our guy here, the Shach, has been going for, is that that there's a stop, and blood is also defined by when by a certain time period, and after that, it's not real blood, or it's not the blood diurese, or it's not blood at all. I should say that according to Rashi. Okay, so that is that. So now let's go to Shach. No, which one I want to do? Shach. So I'm gonna finish up. Shach Tet Zion. The Shach Tet Zion. Ushneim Asurim. What's that talking about? Tet Zion. Find it in the Ramah. Where would that begin? Right. Okay, so no again. Bahad de Tahor Moluach. You see that? It's right next to the Yudalad. Bahad de Tahor Moluach the Tame Tafel. Right? The Tahar is Moluach, it's full of that power. The Tame is Tafel, it's ready to be a victim. Shari. Hainu Tame Yavesh. Would be in the case in which the Tame is Yavesh. Avoim hu devort salul nesar hatahor miachar she'enu nechal machmas mocho bolia meha'isur shetzlo ushnehem asurim. Okay. Joel, let me ask you. You read Shneim Asurim.
All right. Ushneim Asurim in the Shach, right?
Right.
Klomar b'basar b'chalav. Afal pisha basar levado maluach shnehem asurim. So this is literally like a case where, let's say, you have salted meat, highly salted meat, and it falls into like milk itself, right? And even though the only salted thing is the basar, they both become asur. Aval ima chalav levado maluach katav b'torat chatat klal such and such. Demashma divrei Mordechai, de'achalav mutar. Right. So, but it's the other way. If you have this, the milky thing is the salted thing, and the basar is tafel, according to what do we say? Let's torat chatat. Then from the Mordechai, really, the chalav would be fine.
Okay, there's a talk about totes, and why don't you go down to Mikol Makom, like 8 lines down?
Let's see if I can find it. You said like 8 lines down. Like that's for me.
Mikol Makom Tzarech Iyun Ladina.
Yeah, can I find it? Nope, don't have it yet. Hold on.
It's the third to last narrow line in the
There that might help me. Here we go. Mikol Makom. Kan dehut salul efshar de'akol asur. So that this would be the same case, I assume, since I'm skipping.
Right. Yeah.
So it's against the Mordechai. We're paskening now.
Mhm.
Ve'od she'arav be'aga b'siman kufei siman sif yod chashash l'svarat taran b'makom she'ein efsed. So, and also the Ramah over in Tarovot, which is like the parallel siman to this one, he worries about the Ran Shita and wants to follow that if there's no financial issues going on. Gam Maharshal be'isur ve'heter shalo katav v'zil shano b'tzirichiyun de'v'samach ita li'isur. And the Marshal also says that according to the Smug, this would be against the Mordechai, this would be asur. It doesn't, once there is something that's lach involved or salul involved, only one of them needs to be salted and not both. So
Okay. Aval imhu yavesh. We'll read the Ramah part.
yeah, aval imhu yavesh legamre eno bolea midavar lach she'etzlo. But if it's fully dry or has no liquidness to it, it does not absorb anything from the liquid that's next to it or that's with it or touching it. So
Okay, fine.
Should I read the shaf?
Yeah,
now?
no, read the shots.
But mashma afilu yavesh mashma afilu maluach hakol mutar v'chein katav b'isur v'heter heter haruch sham.
But what's he saying here? I feel maluach hakol mutar.
I think something that is really truly dry doesn't have any exchange. Even the maluch doesn't work for it, right?
So that's a very important principle.
Mm-hmm.
If it's really yavesh, nothing's happening. Even if it's maluach, right? If it's truly yavesh.
Yeah. I mean, I looked this. I don't know if it would count or not. I looked this up. Like for cheese making, there's like 3 different types of salting that go on that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain cheeses that are like truly hard cheeses that you literally just put salt on it, and versus ones that you like a mozzarella that you dip in brine, versus which are like more lach, right? Not just that what you dip it in brine, but the mozzarella is like a lach cheese versus other cheeses are somewhere in between. Which I assume, right? Cheese making salting is enough. That would probably be enough salting to make it keroteach in most cases.
Okay, let's go to Zion. That's fine. Let's go to Zion.
Is it still me?
We say basar chai. What do we mean by basar chai?
Uncooked.
Uncooked. Aval tzuli roteach shenafal meliach afil nechal machmas mocho boy klipa. Why is it boy klipa? Tzuli roteach shenafal meliach. Even though afil nechal machmas mocho, which means what? The melchus doesn't mean much. The milk doesn't do much. Nonetheless, boy klipa. So what's the active ingredient or the goraim that's causing this to be that you have to have klipa? Evidently the ritichut, right? That it's sli roteach. The ritichut does so. even though, right? Even though it's not much regarding the Belicha. The
Why?
Yeshbo B'Kaim, but if there's like, crevices, Shahumatuval, or it's been well seasoned, the meat, or depending on the tavlin, V'hutzali Roteach Kulo Aser. Why, if there's crevices, do we say it's Kulo Aser? Because it's just penetrated so much, it's never going to get out. And the Haggadah says, "Uhadin afui muvushal," and afui mushal, as commentators say, because they're also very tender and it gets absorbed when it's afui or muvushal. Look at Zion and the Shach.
Rev Landis, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
About Zion and the when it says Tzli Roseach Shenafal Miliach Afilu Nechal Machmas Milcho by Klipa, is that because of Tasa Gavar? That it's only Klipa?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I think it's interesting. I thought it was just because of the Chum.
Well, I think we'll see it in
That's why the
Mashiach.
foam only gets to Klipa as opposed to the entire thing, is because of Tatagaver.
It's important at the end of the Ramah, he says, V'yeshomrim nafil heim sonanim din lahachi. V'chein yesh linhag im ein hefsed meruba. This is like a policy statement now we have at the end. Right? Nafil heim sonanim. Sounds like the whole thing is a policy statement. We want to keep it separate. But on that basis, look at the Shach, which we're going to end up, we have to finish up doing here, the Shach on Zion. She'esh binyan gimel shitot. Okay, Max, read the first shita. Sefer Truma.
Wait, which Shach is this?
Zion Chaf Aleph.
Okay. Okay. Dash Yish Binyan Ze Gimel Shitos Sefer Truma v'Hasha'arim v'Harosh v'Hator v'Hamaril v'Shar Poskim Sovrim de Basar Tzli Afilu Tsonen Shnafal Chalav Afilu Nechal Machmas Milcho Bai Klipa v'Im Yesh Basar B'Kaim Oshu Mesubal B'Tavlin Afilu Hu Chai Kulo Asur.
Wow. So tell us over. What's the principle here?
So you have Basar Tzli, even if it's cooled down, that falls into milk, even if the piece of meat,
even if the milk,
even though it's
great,
right,
it needs klipa.
It needs klipa.
We're not letting anything fall into something else without klipa. It's sonain. Like what the heck, right? It's sonain. Why shouldn't hadacha work? Now we don't say that. We don't say hadacha. We say klipa. However, if you have the bikaim and you're never going to get it out, this is very simple. By the way, this is I think this is Rashi Shita. Afil hu chai kulo aser. Okay, number 2, Ruvain. V'das l'rava v'harashba.
V'das harava v'harashba v'haran te'im hatzeli tzonen le'olam ino tzarich ela hadacha.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You don't have to be so frum. Just do that. Wash it off, right? If the tzli is sonain, which means it could be cooked meat, right? Cooked meat, but if it's sonain, wash it off. Ella
de'im hu roteach tzarich klipa.
What's roteach? Hot, right?
Right. Ve'im yesh bo bekaim o metuval.
No. Ve'im hu roteach tzarich klipa.
Oh yes,
fine.
yes, yeah.
Ve'im
yesh bo bekaim o metzubal betavlin vehu roteach kulo asur.
Right. Everyone agrees with that. So far, with the 2 opinions, agree with that. Umashma
medivrei harashba sham sheken dat Rashi.
Because I was wrong about Rashi. That Rashi's right, And now we're going to 2 lines down, the dots or Zerua. Okay, Lexi, can I invite you, please?
The dot or Zorua.
Right, Hagahat Mordechai. Hagahot Mordechai.
Wait, sorry, where I can't. I'm on Al HaTorah right now because my shared before.
I'm sorry for that.
Lesson it.
Bluestein, you with me?
Yeah. Yes.
The dot or Zerua.
The dot or
Okay.
Zarua.
Hagahot Mordechai.
Vagad Mordechai B'Shem Maharaf.
Yeah, they're middle parrots. That's smack.
Okay. Siman Reish He Nir'eh Detzlit Sonen Sarich Klipa.
Tzlit Sonen also needs a klipa. There's a kind of this whole move to making klipa universal, right? The E.
V'imetubal B'Tavlin Oyesh Bekaim Vehu Tzlit Sonen Kulo Asur.
And what's the vav? The who? The vav and the who? That conjunctive? How do you translate?
Oh, meaning it has to be
the. What's the the? Just above.
And.
No, I don't think it's and. Even though.
Oh.
Even though Hutzli Sonen, nonetheless, I'm putting the word nonetheless, Kulo Aser. Aval
B'chai lo.
What does that mean? Aval B'chai lo. B'chai means what?
If it's raw, uncooked.
Yeah, if it's raw. So it makes a distinction between raw and cooked. That sounds like a good anthropological book. Raw and the cooked. Good idea. Now on this, what I just wanted to say is go to Chaf Gimel, everyone here. Please go to Chaf Gimel. In Chaf Gimel, it says here, right, back in the back in the Shulchan about Tzli Rotech Shenafal Meliach, I feel Nechal Machmas Mocha Boy Klipa. Right? Okay, so we talk about the 3 shitot. Chaf Bet. I feel Nechal Machmat Mocha in the Shach. Eino Mechuvan. It's not said right. Eino Mechuvan. This is the Shach as an editor. There's something even stronger. Right? Kevin Shu Rotech Kidin Kolcham Utoxone de Boy Klipa. We don't need Bolicha as a active go-rame here in terms of Psak, just on that way. Vitzor Chlomar, and the answer he says, look, he wasn't being specific, that's all. Okay. Okay, what else I want to say here? Oh, there's one more principle that I wanted to do. Chaf Gimel Boy Klipa. Okay, Boy Klipa. Lexi, you with me now? You got it?
I'm in the Shach, but we're looking at Baye Klipa for
Baye Klipa's Chaf Gimel.
Okay, yes, Kedin Kolcham.
Right.
So Baye Klipa Kedin Kolcham Metoch Tzonen to Baye Klipa.
Right.
It needs, that's the thing we said with Tata Gavar, that hot and cold, you need a klipa. Ve'en l'hakshut heach sabi b'klipa. Va'alo chalav rach v'chazar hatzli shenafal tocho kamit bashel betocho.
What's the question?
So the thing that you should not say as a challenge, but obviously we're raising as a challenge, is how is a klipa sufficient? Because isn't the milk soft and porous, and the roasted meat that falls into it, it's like it's cooked in the milk. V'yesh lomar kevan shenafal toch hachalav havalei kacham letoch tzonen. ואף על פי שהצלי שוקע לתוך חלב, והחלב צף על הצלי, אינו כצונן לתוך...
Wait, before you get there, build up the question.
Right. The
Even
question
though,
is basically, you might have like they're pointing out that the Tata Gavar framework, especially when we're dealing with Basar V'chalav, is kind of complicated because they're like, well, it's liquidy, right? Can we really say it's just the thing that's like below? Like the roasted meat is falling into the milk, right? Would I not say that the meat becomes milky and therefore
right,
flavor to the whole milk?
right, exactly.
Right? So
So
that seems to
now
be
we
the
say
issue.
what?
Why is it Sleepa? But the answer of what you could respond is that since it fell into the milk, it is like, hot into cold. And even though the roasted meat is kind of, swimming down there in the milk, the chalav tzaf, let's say, and now it is in fact the milk is above the roasted meat. It's not like cold into hot. Right, that ultimately the answer is kind of like the state they were in when it fell into the milk is like the determining factor. And even though now the roasted meat is kind of sunk in the milk and there's milk above it, because it was a hot thing that fell into cold, we're going to use that as its like determining status, and we're not going to treat it like a cold thing into hot.
Well, I think the better part of the punchline is the next couple of words.
Right. Kol shehu bimkomo gover mikarer hatzli shenafal letocho. Um, Everything kind of like in its place is going to overcome and cool down the roasted meat that fell into it, right? Which is hilkach b'klipa sagi, akan lashon Rashba.
I like this. Shehu bimkomo gover. To call
Right.
shehu bimkomo gover.
Which
So
seems to be
spend a little time on that for a second.
that's like the logic in general of Tata Gava, right? Is this notion that the lower, colder thing is ultimately going to cool down the hotter thing such that it is not able to like disperse as much flavor. And I think it's basically saying that even though the meat ends up eventually swimming in the milk, like the milk is in sort of real time cooling down the meat in a way that makes it incapable of dispersing flavor throughout the entire milk.
So let me be more
Joel seems to have a question or complaint.
Okay, so let me be more specific.
Oh, sorry.
Joel, before you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
Be more specific. Let me just be more specific. When he says this, it's inside the milk, and the milk is floating around it and it's hitting it. So therefore, all the milk should be a problem, right? But we go to specificity of location. Shehu bim the call shehu bim komo gover. In that spot itself, it's being overwhelmed. Now, Joel, what were you going to say?
I want to try a reading of this because I've always that he thinks that Tata Gaver isn't Lavdafka being below, it's the thing that's not moving. The thing that moves, that falls, is not in Bimkomo, it's moving, and the thing that stays Bimkomo is the thing that has more power to cool or to heat. Right. So I think
could you get rid of the words things and stuff? Saying
yeah. So I think in his world, imagine the opposite. Imagine you had a piece of meat suspended, right? And the meat was hot, and you moved a cup of milk up into the meat. I think he would say potentially that's an or it's a gavar situation, not a tatag, right? Or not a gavar. That's tata gavar. That the tata is the meat, and not even though geometrically the milk is below because the milk is moving to the meat, and not vice versa. Then the meat dominates and not the milk. In other words, it's what stays in place, I think is what he means.
What's the thing staying in place now?
It is normally in most gravity situations.
In here, in this line here.
The milk.
I'm asking a specific question.
The milk is staying in its place.
The milk staying in its place.
Exactly.
So what's got to do with this tata and all that other stuff?
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that.
Rachel is saying that those are being used maybe equivalently, which I think is also true that like when we talk about Tata Gavar, I think it's a good point of Joel's about the idea of like what is fixed versus what is the kind of moving variable. And I think that's also related to the fact that like a lot of times the Tata we're envisioning is also like a larger thing, just like Stam, that like a smaller thing is falling into. That like I think it's not irrelevant, the fact that you have like a little piece of roasted meat falling into like a whole pool of chalav, that like the idea that this larger stationary thing has more power in the interaction, I think is maybe some of what Tata Gavar is being used as a shorthand for.
Well, I don't fully buy, I heard. I do want to say the following in terms of the use of this. Takal Shahu Bimkomo Gover Umakarer Hatzli. That could be very powerful in poskening. I mean, just, that you drop the meatball or part of what's going to be the meatball, or whatever, in that large pot of milk. I'm talking about milk, not soy milk. In this large pot of milk, and then you're going to snatch it away, but wasn't the pot jiggling and all that? And no, it's bim combo. That's what I want to say about it. Bim combo. I think it's very good for very good psak. I just want to say one word here in Chafei. V'yesh romim dafil chem tonanim dina hachi. That's Chafei. Mishum dekaven the nitzla onefa. It should be, shouldn't be too much effective. Rakich ubalea. If it's rakich ubalea, then you gotta, kulo usser in those situations. So if I say a meatball, now the meatball is not going to be kosher because it's already cooked. It would have to be back when I said they're a piece of meat. And this next line I really wanted to say, Umashma medivrei haposkim, de'ein chiluk bein nimlach ketzat, shenechal machmat mocho, uvein lo nimlach klal. Le'olam b'tzlit zonei nami dina hachi. What's that saying? Joe, what's that saying?
That having a little bit of salt doesn't mean it's either salted and inedible, and that's one din, and anything less than that is another din.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think they're saying that once something's cooked, at least when it comes to its like susceptibility, right, for flavor spreading entirely as opposed to only partially, that's true even if it's not heavily salted. Right? That like we're talking about a couple different factors that make things either more capable of transferring flavor or more susceptible to absorbing flavor, and one of them is cooked and being soft.
I don't think he's being pensive.
Oh, he's frozen. That's,
I did for a second, but
Me too.
Yeah, but I think Lexi's right? It doesn't matter if it's how much it's salted or not salted at all, as long as it was already cooked, right? Then it has much more power to absorb flavor than it does when it's
Okay,
raw.
so I mean, you caught what I was about to say. That for what he's pointing out is not only is it balea, but it's balea la'alter. I think that's very important because they're soft. So so you're going to have a big problem when with that pot of milk cooking up and the knish that you made falls in. Knish absorbs completely and fast. So with that tragic ending about the irredeemed Knish, but we saw some interesting things. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rav Landis.
Thank you.
And I apologize for the breaks. I apologize. I'll fix it. Thank you. I'll try to fix it. Thank you.